if you have something to ask, and if you have something to share, also you can share it in Arabic, and after that we will translate in English. Me or Muhammad or Hakim, we can help for it. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Hamd Al-Amouri. I'm the General Secretary of the MENA, our cooperative network for the MENA region. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to this conversation. Today, we are asking a deceptively simple question. What can the cooperative movement teach us about the transition to a green economy? Not in theory, but in practice. Who is actually doing the work? What is working and what still needs to change? To help us think this through, I'm honored to be joined by Melvin Kabenje from ICA Africa, the African region of the International Cooperative Alliance. Melvin was part of the team behind the Alliance Mark study, Cooperation for the Transition to a Green Economy, published in 2021. It looked at cooperatives across the world in energy, housing, finance, agriculture, and asked how they put their values to work in face of the climate crisis. Welcome, Melvin. Welcome, and thank you for being with us. And I'll let you to present yourself if you have something to say.
Yes, no, thank you, Ramsey, for the introduction. As you mentioned, I work with IC Africa, and I got the pleasure also to interact with the organization SEN. I think was it 2 years ago, a few years ago, and through FAO, and I'm happy to be part of the webinar.
Thank you. So a quick word on how we'll run this. I'll take Melvin to 6 themes, 6 questions, building from the report itself towards the bigger questions and what this means for our region. We'll leave time at the end for your questions, so do keep them coming. Melvin, let me start you and the report itself. As one of the report's authors representing ICA Africa, what's the single most important thing the research taught you about the link between cooperatives and the green transitions?
Okay, thank you. Maybe just a brief background before I give my own personal insights. So yeah, this was a research done. ICA is in 4 different regions, so Africa, Europe, Asia Pacific, and the Americas. So as you mentioned, I was covering the African aspect because we try to give each region's perspective in this global research, and it's hard to pinpoint to one important thing from the research, but I think maybe just a general theme was that we've heard about green transition and things like that, even with the SDGs. But from the research, we realized that this actually it's not like it's a special or extra agenda for cooperatives, because as long as you're following the cooperative principles, this is not really an extra task. It's clearly aligned with concern for community. So one of the biggest take home is like, if as cooperatives we're following the principles and taking care of the environment, automatically that means we're taking care of green transition. So that, for me, I think that was one thing that came to mind.
Yeah, and we will talk about it, the 7th principle from the cooperative movement, and yeah, that's great. Yeah, you led the African case studies, I guess, for the reports, and there is the most concrete examples in it. And there is a savings and credit cooperative in Kenya, financing clean energy for its members, and the housing cooperative in Tanzania, building with the eco-friendly materials to avoid deforestation. So what makes a cooperative's environmental innovation actually take roots and last? Talking about these 2 cases in Africa.
Okay, so from my experience, I feel one of the key reasons for these in environmental innovation to last it has to do with ownership, both financial and social ownership. If the innovation is directly addressing a problem for the cooperative members, then that project is going to last. So, like you mentioned, the examples, the one in Tanzania, for example, it was related to housing. So you see, there's a direct link. They are actually addressing the housing problem, and we all know housing is one of the basic needs for human beings. So
Yeah.
finding creative ways to address that need would make the innovation sustainable. The
Mm.
same way in the Kenya example, where like members in the circles find ways to invest in solutions that will help them in their households and in their livelihood. So for me, in summary, basically, it's like for the environmental innovation to last, yeah, you have to mirror it with like a specific need that is existing that addresses a problem for people. But also, I feel like definitely it requires like continuous education. You'd want your members to participate, to own it, and then of
Yeah.
course, as it's needed in cooperatives example, you need that strong governance to ensure that your implementation works.
Yeah. 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 You said that by design, cooperative are human centered. So when you need to, you can do the things like more innovatively. So I want to stay with this energy model, this experiment in Kenya, because it sits at the heart of what many of us are working on nowadays.
Mhm.
The report features energy cooperatives for several continents and communities like in Brasilia, in Brazil, and Africa that came together to power themselves when no one else would. So, from an African standpoint, and what conditions let energy corps deliver real access to and a genuine transition where state-owned or co-investor-owned models simply haven't reached?
Yes, I think you've said it well in terms of like you've explained the problem when there are definitely some communities that are not attractive for like state-owned or big commercial companies to venture into. So from experience and for this, I can even borrow, like you mentioned, Brazil is very prominent in this, where like the energy cooperatives are doing well. So a way what we've learned is that first of all, it has to again linking to my previous intervention. It has to come from the community themselves organizing themselves, and but then also access to finance is a very big challenge in terms of, as we know,
Yeah.
with these energy transitions, it requires a lot of investments. So with this, what's been the current trend, especially within Africa, is the SACCOs, which are the financial cooperatives. So they actually make efforts where like they make these resources available, financial resources, and we all know with a bank, with a normal bank, the loan
Hmm.
arrangement is very high. But now within financial cooperatives, they at least bring a gap to provide these resources for cooperatives. But also, I feel like one challenge we've seen it's the current like when I don't know if I wouldn't get too much into that, but the current legal framework within these businesses, like energy, for example, you might find out as it is right now, it's not suitable for cooperatives or
No.
small organizations. So
Mm.
another way to try to get into that is to ensure that first of all, government should recognize that these community-owned groups or energy initiatives, they should recognize them and actually help promote those kind of initiatives. And also in some aspects, there's been some government that actually encourages this thing by not just recognizing them, but they also even provide grants or some form of
Mm.
resources. So there are
Mm.
few good examples where this has been the case, where access to finance is being cushioned by the financial cooperatives, but also we try to push for rights enabling environment so that these small in quotes compared to like bigger corporations also have
Yeah,
an ideal playing field for them to execute the initiative.
nice. So let's go to the idea, the main idea, the heart of the report. You said you talked about the seventh principle. So cooperatives have seven principal concern for community, and the report leans on it heavily as a bridge between cooperatives and the environment or climate crisis in general. But to its credit, the report also turns around and questions itself. And so you have put the question to you directly: Is Principle Seven still fit for purpose in the face of the accelerating climate change crisis? And if it is, what in practice is the real cooperative difference in the environmental action?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, because it was just interesting, like you said, in the report in terms of um, because sometimes I feel like there is a disconnect within like yes, we know the principles, we've learned about them, we've heard about them, but then in practice, and especially now, sometimes when we get these real life situations. So, for example, climate change is real. Climate change is affecting whether in the NENA region, Africa, Europe, like across all regions, it's a reality. So, in a way of like making this principle seven like a reality, like life that's to counter this reality we're facing, because what we learned from the report is like climate change directly affects environmental sustainability, which in the bigger picture affects the well-being of the community. So it's like they are intertwined. And if you say the principle seven is about the community, and then there's something affecting this well-being, it definitely shows that that responsibility of Principle Seven definitely is still relevant and very relevant.
Hmm.
And even beyond climate change, to the like just in terms of even how cooperatives can contribute to sustainable development in their communities. So,
Hmm.
but then in terms of your question about in practice, like making it this visible, we feel like one, if we say we're cooperatives and we have this challenge of climate change within a community, we should be thinking of collectively investing in the solution to this. So whether it's renewable energy, whether it's protecting our forest, whether it's getting engaged in water resources or just climate smart practices for the way we go about agriculture, whether, like I said, SACCOs and financial cooperatives investing in green like initiatives. So these are the
Yeah.
ways we can make it like visible, like and also um, we think like because the other principles, for example, the principle five, where like it tells us education. So it's our duty also to educate our members about climate change, encouraging them to actually not just like you said, act the principle, like do these things, and it could even start as small, where like these our members are more aware about the environment in terms of best practices in and keeping their environment safe and things like that. So that's how
Yeah.
we felt like definitely you can't the community's well-being and environmental well-being cannot be separated.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, everything we've discussed so far shows like what's possible. But
Mhm.
inspiring examples don't adapt to systematic change on their own. The report argues we need both the big structural moves and the small local ones and the right
Mhm.
partnerships to connect them. So, what has to change in policy, in scale, or in partnerships for the environmentally active cooperatives to move from being inspiring exceptions to having systematic impact?
Yes, thank you. I think I could summarize it into maybe three parts. I feel like the first one we mentioned a bit. We definitely need stronger enabling environment. I think ICA as almost one of our major push, especially from the policy aspect, is that the actual recognition of cooperatives as development partners. So this is
Okay.
something we really spend a lot of time pushing. I think in various levels, from the United Nations, the African Union, and I think we could see some of the results. So,
Sorry, Megan.
sorry.
Mr. Khalid, أستاذ خالد لو سمحت. شكرا.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, so we could see it developing a bit. Like for example, last year we had the recognition from the United Nations, and now in fact, it's been accepted by the General Assembly that the International Health Cooperatives will be every 10 years. And
Okay.
but we know that's one aspect, but then we also want to see this recognition in the national governments in terms of when you have a national development plan in Tunisia, for example, are
Yeah,
cooperatives recognized as a development partner or actor to execute some of your initiatives. So we really think this recognition and improving the enabling environment will help us to make a bigger impact. But then also we realize even from the research, because this is one research publication, I feel like even with this, there could be so many more examples we could highlight. So we feel
yeah,
there's a need for more visibility and evidence. So if we're advocating that cooperatives should be recognized, but then we need to tell our stories like, okay, show us the cooperatives that have successfully engage in green transition and climate smart practices. So there is also that gap where we find, especially in Africa, also there are quite a number of cooperatives who are actually doing good work in this aspect, but no
yeah,
one knows, including their governments, including let alone outside of their countries. No one knows about it. So it's good. We continue to push that there should be more visibility of these kind of work, and maybe just as a side comment, we also try to do this through policy briefs. For example, currently we are working on different. We're working on policy briefs on the different SDGs. So, in
okay,
short, basically, what we try to do there is to show that okay, if we say this is SDG 6, this is what cooperatives are doing in SDG 6. So, but again, like I said, it's never enough. We need as many of those as possible. But
yeah,
lastly, also, like you mentioned, we can't do it in silos, so partnership is essential. So we feel like the movement needs to have stronger collaboration, one within itself, but also like with external partners, like in the government, other development agencies, even civil society organizations. We feel like if we get those strong collaboration. For example, I was part of the EU meeting, which they were discussing like the global gateway, for example. That's one development initiative. But if you look at the global initiative, if you look at like the way it's structured, almost it's like it's easy to you can just say, okay, a cooperative cannot even apply for this proposal, for example,
yeah,
because maybe they're looking at such a big figure or macro level. So these are some of the things maybe where like a proper collaboration, a strong collaboration with institutions that are maybe more experienced in the business could propel cooperatives to be engaged in these things and tap into some of these opportunities that are available. And maybe
yeah,
just as a last point on this is that I feel like really that's why our current ICA strategy, which runs till 2030, we continue to really advocate for these cooperatives to get involved in these kind of initiatives.
yeah, yeah. It's very important to do that, and maybe I will add something. Another idea about that is like it's very important to support cooperative movement to access to climate finance. Now climate
Yeah.
finance is growing up year after year, and this it's very great issue about the access to these technicalities of how to write proposal, how to when and where you will present your proposal to have access to this financing, and which bring me home in this conversation to our region in MENA. So much of what you described resonates here in our region, but the context matters, and not everything transfers cleanly. So looking at the African experience you documented, which
Mhm.
lessons travel most directly to the MENA region, and what would be meaningful South cooperation between our two movements or our two organizations actually look like?
Okay. I think maybe a lesson to learn first, as I mentioned earlier, would be like definitely for environmental sustainability to be more successful, we have to make sure it's addressing the everyday needs. Because
Yeah,
we realize that I guess living from the African experience, we realize that these the challenges are similar in the NENA region. The water scarcity, energy access issues, the food security, the vulnerability in the climate. So we can already see the challenges are similar. And if we say we all believe in like the cooperative framework can address these challenges, then yeah, in terms of the South to South cooperation, let's now just move away from just a dialogue and then get into like practical exchanges. So things like
yeah,
peer learning between the regions, joint research, maybe like you said, maybe have an Arabic version, like you mentioned earlier.
yeah,
So, and then again, I think it's very key to have these cooperative to cooperative partnerships. And yeah, and I feel like now it's always we always say the youth are always full of ideas, so we could tap into also the youth in terms of getting innovative financial models for green investment and ideas and things like that. So these are areas of possible collaboration we can work on. And I think like you mentioned, maybe in my previous question, what should I mention? Like you said, sometimes also even the knowledge on these technical things are not there. So maybe capacity building on writing these proposals. I know 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, IC Africa region had a webinar on carbon credits, for example. And we found out that
okay,
like the cooperatives, no one, including myself, like I don't have vast knowledge on what we have these technical terms, carbon credit and blah blah blah, but
yeah,
we
yeah,
really don't understand it, for example. And and the reality is there's actually resources, there's actually money in this
yeah,
in the development world. There's so much money out there on climate finance, like you mentioned, but how do cooperatives get to access this? We're still far away. It's still a big gap. So these are things we could collectively work on to tap into. And I feel like we can come for us, because for me, I feel like all of these, just like most SDGs, collective people coming together is actually a strong way of getting a solution. And that is
okay,
cooperatives. That should be a cooperative identity. So if that's our identity, we should really be aggressive in getting the solution for
yeah.
presenting ourselves as a solution.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Mm.
Very insightful conversation. Thank you, Melvin. Maybe I will open the floor to our guests to raise your hand if you have any idea to share or question to share within Melvin, and so you can ask in Arabic, in French, in English. We can translate if you want. للجماعة الحضور، لو عايزين تسألوا أي سؤال أو ملاحظة لملبن، المجال مفتوح لكم لو عايزين، أو إضافة أو تعليق. سامعيني ما على الأقل حكيم سامعني. أوكي يلا حكيم
نعم.
تفضل. ورانا مرحبا. يلا حكيم.
Good
It's
night.
open mic, open mic. خذوا take initiative and keep talking. يلا يلا حكيم.
Uh, Good night. Hi, Ramzi. And
أهلا.
I need to thanks to our colleague and our comrade Melvin from ICA Africa. He know our network from 2 years, and he works with us in Morocco. And I need to thanks all my colleague in network, especially Ramzi and Noor, about this event. I need to ask Melvin,
Mhm.
what's your opinion about the principles of cooperative when we working when we working in the climate change? You know,
Okay.
the new liberalism strategy, it's divorced all things in agriculture. How we can working about the climate change with the cooperative principles?
You can unmute yourself, Melvin.
Yes, yes, yes. Sorry, I
Yeah.
was muted. Yeah. Yes. So Akim, yeah, that's thanks for your question, and yeah, thanks once again for the invite. And I think, like I said, basically our cooperative identity makes us really qualifies us to work in this sector of climate change, since it directly affects our community where we basically, I could literally say maybe all of those principles align and aid us to be part of this. I mentioned earlier other principles, for example, like our education. It's our responsibility to also propagate the message to our members of on climate change, best good practices, but also like we our main mission, which I feel cooperatives should be formed, is to provide solutions. So if this is a problem, then I think our mandate is, as cooperatives, we should be the ones finding solutions for them. So in broad, that's the answer. That's really us as an identity qualifies us to work on in response to climate change. I know we don't do that enough. I know there are challenges, like we've mentioned, in terms of even getting into the sector of finance and all of those challenges we talked about earlier. But in a way, but I still feel like if we're thoroughly going through our principles, we are on the right page in terms of like we should be responding to things like anything affecting our community.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I will ask another. This is an important another idea or another question about the report and the movement, the cooperative movement in Africa. Yani, one of the conclusions in the report was to partnerships with the social and environment movements as an instrument to mobilize, to to make lobbying, to move forward for the as a green transition, green equal transition. So what kind of partnerships, concrete partnerships, have you seen at the African level as ICA Africa? Have you had concrete partnerships with those social and environment movements?
Yes. Yes, I have. Maybe I can mention two. So, like I mentioned earlier, we did a carbon credits webinar. So this actually came from a partnership we're working on. It's not yet finalized, but basically they're interested in cooperatives that want to know about climate change. But these guys are actually also in the business of the carbon credits as carbon credit area. So they've extended invitation to the cooperatives in Africa. Basically, it's like to first of all, they're willing to educate them on the sector, but also business and trade opportunities within that space. Maybe what I can do, I could maybe literally give those like the exact names and details. I'll send it to you or Akim. That's one
Mhm.
partnership. It's still new. This we started this conversation like about 2 months ago. But also, as I mentioned earlier, ICA is part of the European Union's policy forum for development, and
Okay.
there are conversations where we had a meeting on the global gateway. It was in November. So there are conversations where there are plans for us to access, like you said, first of all, understand what's available in the EU for cooperatives that might be interested in climate change, because there's a big portion of money involved around there. But then we keep
Okay.
saying we will need again the same thing. We will first of all need this training on the how to get these things. But one solution to this also they've recommended that for each country the cooperatives also try to get in touch with the European Union delegation in your country. And
Mm.
so, for example, in Kenya, we're trying to get a meeting with the European delegation in Kenya, also to discuss their priorities on that's climate change and see how we can link them with cooperatives. So I don't know the connection in Tunisia, but for example, I'm thinking from the IC Africa region level, what we could do, we could figure out contacts in the European delegation in the various countries and
Mhm.
learn because each delegation has their priority areas. Learn the priority areas in your country's delegation. Then you now align your activities or initiatives to those priorities of the European delegation. So those are the
Okay.
two things that come in mind
Mm.
in terms of how we can take it forward.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know if ICA is participating to the COPs meeting every year, or they don't take part of it.
Um, for this year, I'm not sure, but the one last year we did. We had a representation. We even had so it's even culminated in the I don't know if you heard about the World Social Summit in
Yeah.
Qatar. So we also try to get our position papers in those meetings. But definitely last year we were also part of the COP, the thing in Brazil. The next ones I'm not yet sure about our participation, but we do try to push in those policy things. We try to push our positions there. Usually it's the after that's more challenging, getting now getting it
Yeah.
cascaded down.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing, if you have questions, guys, you can ask. Just moving. Okay. What the question in the chat box? Okay. What are key indicators for cooperative to say it is a community-led initiative or development process? Thank you, dears. Okay. I don't know if the question is clear or I didn't understood the meaning of the question.
Can I make quick reflection?
Yes,
Hi, dears.
yes, Mr. Ahmed. Ahlan, ahlan.
Yes, it's really great to see all of you and to hear this. Yeah, I think in most of our countries, the cooperative movements or cooperatives generally has been led by civil society organizations or NGOs or by international organizations, and that was one of the challenge, at least in Palestine, maybe other countries in the region, in the world, especially in the South countries. But the question, how we can see this cooperative movement as a community-led process, that a process led by the people, by the communities in need, by the communities seeking to develop their socioeconomic conditions, local markets, and how these cooperatives can play a key role in making the local markets working for the poor and for the most vulnerable communities suffering from whatever conflicts or climate change or all these challenges on the ground. I think that could be a relevant question and as part of our discussion. Thank you, Melvin.
Yeah.
and Ramzi and all. Yeah.
Thank you, dear Ahmed. Thank you.
Yes. No, I think that's a very important question, and I think this is something that's been going on for a while, where the simple answer would be like a clear indicator to see if you are a cooperative that is community led is to see if you're making the cooperative values and the principles. But we know it's sometimes challenging. For example, I think even not just within your region, but in other regions where like the issue about autonomy and independence from like state-owned, and I think you mentioned that in some areas it's NGOs led and things like that. So there is actually that struggle of autonomy, because the true meaning of cooperatives, you have to be autonomous, like it's the people owned, people led. It's their decision on what they want to solve. It's their decision to come together voluntarily, not being paid to come together, not being forced by the government, for example, to come together. So it has to be a voluntary thing where like they come together and initiative. Then of course, it should be democratic, and when not one person decides everything for the group. And I'm sure we all are aware of all of those principles and values. Those really should be the guide. But I understand where Mr. Ahmed is coming from, and especially because also with my engagement in the strategic dialogue that the FAO is pushing, and we know that there's that gap where like we want cooperatives to really be allowed to exist within all 7 cooperative principles and the values.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Melvin. Okay. Maybe Noor, you want to ask something?
ايوه بس حابه اترجم لي كالعاده يعني.
Okay. I tried to translate.
اوكي سؤالي من قرايتي للتقرير ان معظم النقاشات الدوليه بتركز على التحول الاخضر وازاي بنستخدم التكنولوجيا والاستثمار. ازاي نقدر نضمن ان ما يتحولش الاقتصاد الاخضر ده لعمليه جديده لتركيز الثروه والسلطه الاقتصاديه في ايد حد، وازاي التعاونيات تقدر تعمل ده؟
Okay. It's a little bit tricky for me to translate it, but I will try to make it simple. Noor said that in the reports, we are talking about how cooperative movements are moving forward for the green transition, and there is the other sectors also, the cooperative, the private sector investors are moving also forward for the so-called green New Deal, you know. And the question of Noor is like how we can guarantee that or be sure that this transition will not be another way to consolidate the private sector hegemony or the cooperation hegemony facing of the cooperative movements.
Yes, that's a very good question, and that's actually a real threat. And we can see that already. We can see you can see that already where the private sector, they are well advanced, well aware about even these climate change even before more than social groups like the cooperatives, for example, because
Yeah,
that's I guess that's what they do. They always find a way to get ahead of everyone else. So it's a real threat to the cooperative movement. But I believe what I could say is that for cooperatives who already have that experience of community, I think that should be really our advantage when for private, it's always been about making profits and things like that. So, and I think the fastest way to come up with this solution would that advantage of coming one to the grassroots level, which again, I think as a real cooperative, we should not have an issue. We should already be a grassroots movement where we're in touch with the people and their problems. So for us, that's an advantage. Yes, for the private sector, they have the advantage of course, they have more access to resources, and which it's hard to deny. It's there. It exists. So I feel like what we can do is focus on our own advantage, our community sense, and also, but again, we should get in speed with the time because I think most cooperatives also get to a level where they're very comfortable just within the community. But I think that's one thing, personally, I feel like, I don't know, maybe in the future we should come up with a cooperative principle that mandates cooperatives I don't know how to phrase it, but basically learn with the time, be innovative constantly. And
yeah,
but for now, maybe a simple answer to Noel's question would be yes, it's a threat that we should not dismiss. It exists, that given the advantage, they will definitely solidify their presence over social groups. That threat is there. But what I can say is let us also utilize our own advantage, which is us being closer to people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Melvin. There is something very interesting in the report. The report, it flags the youth inclusions as a priority, and I want to ask how ICA Africa is bringing younger members or youth in this dynamics or this flow of change. How you are doing, and what is working and what is not in this side of work.
Yeah, thank you. So inclusion is really one of our main priority also within IC Africa. And since last year, we've been working on what we call the National Gender Platform. Basically, what this platform is it's been launched last year, like a regional one. But then the aim of this is to encourage wherever our members are, in South Africa, Tunisia, Senegal, wherever. The aim is for them to adopt this gender platform, which basically it's for cooperative movement to have a dedicated platform where these gender issues are addressed, and the participation is encouraged. I think maybe after answering this, I will maybe find the the link, the PDF to that platform, and put it in the chat.
Okay.
So we are pushing for all of our member countries to adopt this. So far, I think it's been adopted in Kenya. It will be adopted there's an SSC conference in Senegal, I think next month. So we are pushing for that to be launched there. Zimbabwe has also shown interest for that to be launched during the International Cooperative Day. So we've got that interest. Our aim is for each member country to actually adopt that gender platform. We want to do a similar one for the youth. It has not yet been drafted, but the plan is to do a very similar one for the youth, and so that we push that. But beyond having this platform or policy for cooperative movements to adopt, we have activities where we try to encourage capacity building. So for the youth, for example, we'll be having a training actually in August.
Okay.
Basically, this was to encourage young cooperatives we bring them together to learn. I think we've heard about Worker Cooperative. So this is
Okay.
an opportunity for the young people to learn more about worker cooperatives. That's also one way, talking about energy. That's, again, maybe I'm digressing a bit, but it came to mind an example. We had a similar program for the youth. This was a few years ago, and actually one of the young initiatives that came about was actually on energy. This was a group from
Okay.
Zimbabwe, and now there's actually an existing energy cooperative in Zimbabwe by young people, which came from
Okay.
that. I think that program was in just maybe around before COVID. We had that. Anyway, so we're having a similar one in August, and yeah, unfortunately, the application process was completed. I think from the northern region, we only had one from Tunisia, unfortunately. Although we are working with
Okay.
FAO, maybe we'll get one more from the northern African region to join, because it's a group of 30 young Africans. So
Okay.
that's one typical example of the youth initiatives we try to do. But also we also try to see how we can link young people within the continent to also get exposure with the other continent. Last year we had a youth initiative organized by the UN, which also brought, I think for that one it was bigger. It brought about 50 young Africans, and I think we had a good number from the NENA region, and these are just ways to continue preaching the
Yeah.
message, like encouraging
Yeah.
them with their initiatives. Like I mentioned earlier, if we're thinking innovation, then the young people definitely have to be part of this movement. So yeah.
Mm. Nice. Nice. Maybe yeah, we have a scoop maybe in San Mena. We are like trying to launch a youth program also.
Okay,
Uh,
nice.
maybe this year or next year, but
Okay.
we have now this idea to gather young people from the region about the cooperative principles. So we have other question now. I would start with Mr. Muhammad. He asked, his question is, given the climate change affecting most countries, agriculture cooperatives are facing difficult circumstances. So, is there a solution to sustain the work of the agricultural cooperatives? So, I know it's very,
Mhm. Yeah, it's not to say there's one solution.
yeah,
Yeah. So there are quite a number of solutions to try. We because also again, I feel like the field keeps like various new solutions keep coming up, and also sometimes it's also country specific in terms of like getting effective solution to these problems. But yeah, broadly, I think we've mentioned like these climate smart agricultural practices that we encourage cooperatives to engage in.
Thank you. There's another question from Nisaf. Hi, Nisaf. Okay, it's about the point of it's what about women's initiative, women's initiatives and their role in cooperatives in African level, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a dedicated it's called the Gender Equality Committee, which so now they're tasked to really push these gender activities, and like I mentioned, for them one of their main focus is ensuring that our member countries have this gender platform, and together with the global ICA movement, we also try to ensure that we have dedicated specific initiatives for women, and so far it's still a challenge, but so far we're working on it. We keep seeing differences. I feel like even in terms of leadership, we've seen quite a number of few changes in leadership, where like now we have more cooperative leaders that are women, and we want to see more of that, and we encourage that.
Yeah, I want to say hi to Reem and Zahra. They are with us now today. There is another question from Ms. Sameh. The question is like, what is your flagship project next? Flagship projects as a ICA Africa environmental projects, you know.
Environmental project. So currently, I think top of my head, what I would say is to see how this partnership with the carbon credit comes about. I think that's something we need to we are trying to iron out the details on what that can be, because from the webinar there was a lot of interest, especially from the agricultural cooperatives. So we're still trying to work out what can be done, and I think once we have one of those, I think it could even open doors for similar type of, because to be honest, I think it's the same way. It's the same way. The same way we keep saying there's a gap in us accessing these resources. I think it's the same way there are private institutions that are genuinely also looking for social groups like cooperatives to work with, but they are not sure that these cooperatives are there to work with, or they are willing, or they are capable. So I think if we can bridge that gap, anything that bridges that gap really is something ICA Africa is looking forward to pushing. But in general, in terms of like our flagship in force, we're just there to support the movement in whatever way. So we get pulled into policy, into research, into capacity building, into trade opportunities. For us, we're open to those things, and we have quite a number of things lined up between now and 2030.
Okay. One more question, and maybe Mr. Ahmed, you are raising your hand. You want to say something?
Yes, maybe it's a good moment, dears, to share some initiatives by the members of our network. I would like to give example for Palestine, for example. In Gaza, there are two important initiatives. One of these is the Local Seeds Initiative. It's an initiative, it's a local forum consisting of around 60 urban family farmers collecting, protecting local seeds, preserving local seeds, sharing local seeds in the time of the crisis. I think that could be also a form of cooperative work that is led by the community during the time of a crisis, and the other one by our partners, and they are also member of this network, the Palestinian Hydrology Group. They have the network for women and water, and these community-led initiatives during the time of the crisis, they are not registered, but community-led by nature, organized by the local communities, and they are dealing with these challenging issues like dealing with the climate issues, change, resilience, solving problems related to water, local seeds, urban agriculture activities. I think these forms of platforms or spaces could be considered, as we analyze and understand, as a form of local community-led cooperatives on the ground, initiated by the community, serving the community, especially during the time of a crisis. Maybe they are not registered yet, but practically they are working on the ground, and they have members, good number of members of the urban family farmers, women, young people and young women, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, comment. Maybe I'll move forward to another remark or questions from Ziad. Who was talking about the impact of technological development on climate and agriculture. It depends on how technology is used. It cannot be said that its negative effects are always greater than its benefits. So maybe your question is about how we can use or the transfer of technology or the use of technology as an asset to make the transition more equitable, maybe. زياد ممكن تحكينا بالعربي أو الإنجليش if you want to develop. زياد معنا؟ Okay. Yeah.
But
Let's say, yeah.
No, but I agree with Ziad that of course, because with or without, whether you accept it or not, there will be development digitally, technologically. So it's for us, like you mentioned, it's how you use it. It's for us to first of all learn about it and use it in a beneficial way.
مش انا اللي بحل الصوت صحيح. Okay. So there is another question from Ali. So I will try to translate. Ali said, my friends and I are working to establish a cooperative association for training and consulting. Our role in society is to raise public awareness of the importance of conserving resources and transitioning to clean energy to protect the environment. However, at the institutional level, many small and medium-sized enterprises do not consider climate change a priority. In fact, they may even view it as a loss, despite government incentives encouraging them to act. These businesses think only on profit. So how can we change their mindset about sustainability from viewing it merely? Okay, I try to. It's a longer question. So okay. Can they shift? Okay, or can they shift their perspective on sustainability as an environmental responsibility to seeing it has economic opportunity from which they can benefit and generate economic return. I'm using technology to translate. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a good question, and I think you see, like what Ali mentioned, that sometimes even like when there's government initiatives, these cooperatives don't seize the opportunity or don't even. So I think the shift really as I think when we speak about green transition and initiatives, that's why we really pushed for it's being intertwined with the cooperative principle 7, because that's
Yeah.
where it's a clear mandate. If something is affecting your community, then it's something you should be part of the solution. So yes, we and I see this happening not just in the region Ali is from, but even in other countries. There are times like even when the opportunities are there, the cooperative movement do not seize grab that opportunity. So it's a continuous process of teaching and preaching for the change of
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah. Thank you, Melvin. So before I ask you to leave us with the final thoughts, maybe I'd like to ask if there is a last question. Xiaomi, this question was asked before, so we have the same question before. It's about the climate, the agriculture cooperatives and the climate change. So, okay. Okay, so Melvin, thank you. Thank you. It was very insightful and very generous to talk to you today. And if you have something to say before we say goodbye, and to the next momentum within Senmena and ICA Africa.
No, just to say, like, I'm humble and I'm happy also to see. I think it was good 2 years ago to see some of the members physically, but also I'm happy to see that it's you guys are still together and although sometimes I know Akim sends me some of the materials, then again the language barrier in terms of figuring out barrier into English. But I see also some activities, and I'm happy, and I think we should continue and just make it as better, especially within your context, and you know it better. And sometimes for us in the regional office, really would like to know more what's on the ground,
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
cannot. So we need your members and people actually on the ground for that. And yes, so thank you for the invitation. On the topic again, maybe I'll just repeat it. I'm sure you've had it a lot. Cooperatives are meant to be the solution to community challenges. And currently, I think there's no bigger challenge to the environment than climate change. So I feel like we should actually strategically think about finding solution and be the actors for change, whether in the African region, in the Arab region. I think it's upon us to promote this transition. Thank you. Shukran.
Thank you. It will, thank you. It will be our take-home message for today. I want to thank all of you for your attention and your question, and to be here for this first episode of our series of conversation series. And Hakim, if you have a last thing to say before we...
رمزي
والله
Yes.
مهم نسمع
أهلا
صوت
نريم.
حكيم
رمزي بالله حبيت نسأل معناتها
تفضل.
في ظل التغيرات المناخية هذه والاقتصاد الأخضر اللي يحكوا عليه معناتها والصغار الفلاحين واللي هم قاعدين يتحدوا في التغيرات المناخية ويعملوا في الطرق البديلة وفي حاجات اللي تقاوم التغيرات المناخية. معناتها كيف تعرف احنا مجمع، والأكثرية في تونس معناتها مجامع مازالت ما تعممتش التعاونيات، ما ينجموش الحلول معناتها اللي يحكوا عليهم هم برشا في البرامج، وكل الناس كل اللي تتعمم على معناتها على صغار الفلاحين في نقول احنا حتى الدول العربية الكل معناتها كيف شفت مع المغرب، تنجم تقول نفس التمشي اللي احنا ماشيين فيه. كيفاش نجموا احنا كصغار فلاحين ومجامع نقاوموا هالحاجات هذه في ظل الاقتصاد الأخضر اللي يحكوا عليه؟
شكرا ريم. نخلي حكيم يجاوبك إذا كان حكيم معايا. أنا just I will translate to Melvin. Reem is one of our leaders in cooperative in agriculture cooperative in Tunisia. You know her. You see her. You saw her in Morocco. She was with us in Morocco. Reem from Tunisia, and she asked the question, the same question as how we can face the climate change challenges as a group of women farmers, small farmers, and how we can move forward for this to a green or to smart agriculture. I do not say smart agriculture, but sustainable agriculture model. I will let Hakim to answer her in Arabic before we quit. Hakim.
تمام.
Yeah.
يعني انا كنت هو يعني ميلفين جاوب
Yeah.
السؤال ده، ولكن طبعا يعني زهرة احنا لدينا
ريم.
للاسف عدد ريم اسف
ريم وزهرة الاثنين سألوا نفس السؤال.
ريم وزهرة الاثنين سألوا نفس السؤال. ازاي نقدر نستفيد من حالة التفاوض على البيئة والاقتصاد الأخضر؟ البداية الحقيقية عندكم انتوا يا ريم، وانتوا بدأتوها فعلا، وهي فكرة ازاي نقدر نبقى منظمين بشكل جيد. كل ما هنقدر نبقى منظمين بشكل جيد ده هيقدر يخلينا اولا نغير مجموعه القوانين. احنا عندنا مجموعه قوانين للاسف في كل المنطقه فيها مشاكل فيما يخص التعاونيات ما بين المجامع والتعاضديات والاشكال المختلفه، وده عامل لنا عائق فعلا امام صغار المزارعين على التفاوض في ده. لكن في الجنب الاخر احنا كمان مسؤولين عن فكره ان احنا نوجد اشكال تنظيميه لينا، واحنا كشبكه، وده يعني بدءا من السنه دي بدانا نشتغل بالفعل على موضوع تغيير القانون من جنب، وموضوع ان احنا يبقى في آلية تفاوض جماعي تقودها الشبكه في قضايا الاقتصاد الاخضر وقضايا العداله المناخيه. يعني الاجابه عندنا احنا اكتر يا ريم ان احنا اللي نبدا فعليا ناخد خطوات في ده. فان شاء الله بدءا من المؤتمر القادم للشبكه وانتم هتكونوا حاضرينه، اعتقد انه هنقدر يعني هيكون اولى خطواتنا تجاه الحديث عن تفاوض جماعي لصغار المزارعين في المنطقه على قضايا العداله المناخيه والاقتصاد الاخضر وكذلك الطاقه. كده الاجابه واصله يا ريم ولا مش واصله؟
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Hakim. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you, all of you. And yeah, see you next time in San Mina or in IC Africa. Would know. Yeah. Ciao. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.